how do you communicate gift giving boundaries to extended family? Or how do you set up celebrations so they're not gift centric?
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma.
Hi, Jenna. Nice to see you again.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on today.
So before we get into it, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Michael. I am a mom to four absolutely wonderful kids. I stay at home with them and I homeschool them. I also am a parenting coach and an author. I have a book coming out in early 2025 focusing on simplifying parenting for families with young children.
You're a seasoned mama of four. That already sounds like a lot right there. But before we get into how you navigate all of that, I'm just with one so far. When I hear moms like with more than two, like my mom also, we're four siblings and my sister has three. I'm like, how? How do we do it?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny because you forget that as your kids get older, they get more independent. And so when you look at the bulk of it, yes, I have four kids, but my three oldest girls are all so helpful and they're super independent. And so that makes it easier because you have a teamwork dynamic that goes on that doesn't make it like you're taking care of four newborns at once, or four
Right.
toddlers. Like moms of multiples, I have so much respect for them because that just sounds so challenging. So as they get older, it does help. It does get easier.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Like the first one and the second one are like maybe overwhelming, but then by the time you get to the third child, it's like and
Yeah.
then the
Oh, I
fourth,
definitely felt
they're
that for
they're
sure. Like 0 to 1 and 1 to 2, those were the hardest transitions. By the time we went 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, it was like, well, it's
yeah.
chaos. So we're just rolling with it.
So I want to talk to you about with you about a few things, homeschooling and your, of course, like parenting coaching insights. But before we get into that, how did you get into mompreneurship?
It has been a very natural progression. I was the first one of my friends, of my sibling-in-laws, of my siblings to have a child. And so, in some ways, it's interesting because I have an older age group child than a lot of people my age do. And what I found was I started becoming a resource for people that I knew. And with that, I was like, oh, maybe I'll just start a blog about this. Like, I think this is really fun.
Oh,
These are cool tips. I have a lot of friends that I've helped with their baby registries. And so I started a blog, and then my neighbor was like, you should start a freelance writing career. So I started a freelance writing career in our area, writing for parenting publications, sharing some of the same things that I was sharing on my blog. And
wow.
what I found was that I wanted the things that I was sharing to last longer. Like when you post an article, it is live for a certain amount of time and then it just kind of gets buried in the shuffle with everything else that's shared. And so that was part of how my book started, was that I wanted to be able to put into long form some of these things that I think were really valuable for moms who were entering into parenting or had already been in there in the middle of like the toddler chaos. And so that was how the book came about. And then as I was having conversations with people, I realized that a book is an amazing resource, but the conversation stops at the end of the book. And I
Hmm.
wanted to continue the conversation with parents. So that was how I started parenting coaching, was that I just really like connecting with people, I think is really what it comes down to. So trying to connect with them in all different avenues and really just affirm and help people feel comforted because parenting can be a lot.
Yeah, tell me about
Right.
it. But yeah, we also have that in my friend group. We have that friend who had her kids much younger than the rest of us. So I kind of see that how she was like, we were like calling her like, what do we need? Like, what's not necessary? What do I should have? So she was like the sage, the sage mom. So
There
you
you
like
go.
started off as like the sage mom, and you started off as a blogger, and then it wrote from there. That's so cool.
Yeah, it just kind of evolved naturally. It was really neat.
And so tell us like some of the first things that parents like come to you about.
Oh, okay. Right now, the hot topics are baby registries
Mm.
because as soon as you type in, what to register for when you have a baby, you're just inundated with all these lists and you should buy ads. And so my whole goal with it was to take a lot of the pressure away and basically strip it down to what do you actually need for a baby? Like what is necessary?
Right.
And then what are some nice things to have on top of it? But at the end of the day, like what does it boil down to? So that's a popular topic for sure. Another really popular one is gifts. So my family and my husband and I do gifts differently for our kids than a lot of families do in today's
Oh, tell
society.
us.
Yeah, so we do the four pillars of gift giving. So our kids get four gifts from us, whether it's a birthday or a holiday, and it's something to wear, something to read, something they want, and something they need.
Oh,
And what we do is we fill those categories in, and then talking about how do you communicate gift giving boundaries to extended family, or how do you set up celebrations so they're not gift centric? And so gift giving is definitely a popular topic to
yeah.
talk about as well, for sure.
Kind of, I feel like a lot of the, I guess, consumerism that we are pressured to, participate in the Western world, that is so much like with the baby registries. I remember all the things that I saw, and luckily, like I consulted with like my sister, my friend. I didn't buy. I wanted minimalism. Like I just wanted what I need, and then I'm like, if I need something else, then I'll just go and get it. But I'm so glad that I never bought like wipe warmers and formula dispensers and special
Yeah,
sterilizers, because that's what like all the lists were saying, and I didn't like, you don't need any of that stuff. Maybe it's a
yes,
nice to have for some moms, but but
right,
all of that.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's funny because the reason that I learned all of that is because I did a lot of it. Like I did buy a wipe warmer for my oldest. And so as I continued to have kids, you'd think more kids would mean more stuff. And what happened was we had more kids and less stuff
Less
because
stuff.
there
Yeah.
was less time to manage everything and there was less space to store it. And so it's yes, I think consumerism is definitely an interesting topic when it comes to those things for
Right.
sure.
And the gifts too. So for like my son is 2.5 before his second birthday, because the first birthday I felt like it was like we also feel kind of like awkward, where like our son is there and he doesn't even understand what's going on, and like the family was like with all the gifts. So we for his second birthday we had like a no gift policy. Of course,
Mhm.
some people ignored that, but still,
Right.
we just said like no gifts this year. He has plenty, and he just like we wanted it more to be about family and hanging out together and things like that. But I like your idea of like if there are gifts, being really intentional about that. So I love the four pillars of gift giving.
Yeah, we love that. We also always prioritize an experience over a physical item if we can,
Yeah, that's what
whether
we
it's
did too.
membership, yeah, or even like some of our family members will take our kids on a special experience by themselves as their gifts. Like my daughters have gone on like nail salon dates with an
Oh,
aunt in order to be able to celebrate a birthday or a shopping experience with a grandmother, something that makes it memorable and fun that's not just like a quick release, open a gift and then move on kind of experience.
yeah, I love that. That's the kind of auntie I was before I would like my nieces and nephews, their birthday present was always an experience. Like
Love
if
that.
my nephew, he was into dinosaurs, I took him to the dinosaur museum, and we had
Oh,
lunch together, and my niece, she was into like animation, so I gave her like paid for this animation workshop and everything. So now when I
that's
finally had children, I was like, yeah, I could experience it. So we had a birthday party at home, but then he was really into animals and insects. So we took him to, to see like all types of insects and animals at this park that they have here. But yeah, I'm all for that. I really love this more
yeah.
enjoying. Yeah.
It's interesting. So as your son gets older, something that we've done with our kids that's been really fun is we give them the option between a party or an experience. So instead of doing both, because with four kids
Yeah.
and trying to make birthdays and holidays and everything else in between special, it kind of becomes overwhelming for a mom. And so we started this probably around your son's age, where we would say, do you want a birthday party or do you want an experience? And our kids will alternate, kind of depends on the year and what they choose. And maybe they have a birthday party that is an experience, or like my daughter turned 8 recently, and instead of doing a birthday party, she was like, Mom, I really want to have an experience. I want to go sleep in a hotel. Because every time we travel, since we're a large family, we always rent Airbnbs. And so she's like, I know what a hotel is, but I've never been to one that she can remember, because we would take them when they were like much smaller. And so when she wanted a reading experience at a hotel, and that's what we did. I took her to a hotel and we read books and we got takeout and just had like a girls'
Yeah.
night. And it was just everything for her. And it was an opportunity for me to just say yes a lot. And I think it was a really impactful birthday for her because she was able to decide. It was like a choose your own adventure kind of deal.
Yeah, that's what I asked for my bat mitzvah when I was 12.
Oh,
But
how
because
sweet.
like yeah, because here it's like common you either have like a big party and they invite a bunch of people and like and it can get really expensive. I didn't even think about it like that at the time. My mom just asked me, "What do I want?" She said, I don't even remember if she offered the hotel. Maybe she did. And I just said, "Wow, a hotel." And then she said, "Okay, we booked a hotel room and I could bring 5 friends." And we felt
Whoa.
so grown. We we got to sit in the spa and we went into the jacuzzi, into the pool, and we ordered pizza. And so that was like she let me choose that gift, and I felt so. And then I was like, even though I didn't have like a huge party, like everybody, my friends talked about it. To this day, we remember my butts and mitzvah in the hotel, in the
See,
hotel
that's so
room.
cool. And
Yeah,
and if you had opened like a new dress or a new whatever it was, like it may not have been as memorable as that, but you're still talking about it. So
yeah,
it's an impactful experience.
yeah. So I love that. Your 8-year-old is gonna remember that too. Her first time in a hotel. I remember that
Yeah.
was my first time in a hotel.
Oh, that's so cool. I
Yeah,
love to hear that.
awesome. I really hope people can take that as instead of just buying, a bunch of presents, have like it doesn't have to be 4 pillars. Maybe you want to make it less, maybe you want to be, but something
Right.
along
Yes.
those guidelines. And I feel like the larger the families get, it doesn't have to be like, so much. I know families that do like no adults get gifts, only the children. Do you
Mhm.
like, what do you recommend for like people who have like a lot of children or a lot of family members?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think so I have a whole chapter on gifts and celebrations in my book. And one of
Oh,
the things that I
awesome.
make like really, really clear is that every family is different. So a lot of my coaching starts with value system identification. So as a family, being able to sit down and be like, what's really important to our family? And if it's something like books, like our family really, really, really values reading and books, then maybe you prioritize that, but you don't prioritize, I don't know, board games or whatever it is that is different for you. So when you know what's important to you, you can focus on that and use that filter through all the decision making that you make with your families. So I would say instead of giving more, what I try to do in my coaching is not say like a you should or this is how you should frame it. I'll offer things like, yeah, our family uses 4 pillars. It might work for your family, it might not, but more so encouraging people to look through the process and the system and decide what works for them and what falls into their values. So somebody that has a really large family when it comes to gifts, I've heard of families doing scavenger hunts where each kid gets like one really cool present, but in order to get that present, the whole family goes on a scavenger hunt that the parents have planned.
Wow.
Or maybe it's everybody, has a collective handmade gift that they've made. Like whatever it is that the family prioritizes, I think it's really important that the family embraces their authenticity and their uniqueness when it comes to it, because more often than not, especially with gifts and holidays, we're so inundated with this is the top gift of the season, or you should buy this because this will make your child happy. And what I've learned is that when I embrace the fact that I am different than my neighbor and that that's a good thing, it allows me to be more of my authentic self in my parenting and my decision making and our family. And then we're all a little bit better for it, right? Because we're not supposed to fit into a mold where we're all
Right.
made differently. So I guess when it comes to that, I would say I would love to talk to people about it and help them figure it out for themselves, but I don't know that I would prescribe a one size fits all. gift
Right,
giving.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
to get inspired by some of the options that are out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think
And I
that's
love
cool to see
that,
people do
how you
differently.
said define your values. I think that is such a good, gauge to like what direction you're going to take. Because sometimes people don't even take the time to think about it. And they're just like, I like that as far as gifting. I guess we implement that anyway because we're like experienced
Yeah,
people without even thinking about it. But I like that. Define your
me
values,
too.
and that's how you set the rules that set the tone for everything.
Yeah, I think today as parents, we are often more reactive than proactive when it comes to decision making, right? Like we take things as they come to us versus being able to identify our boundaries or our policies in advance and then being able to use that moving forward. So birthday parties is a really good example for my family, because I was not prepared for how many birthday parties 4 children would get invited to over the course of a year, right? Like if you have a preschool class and that preschool class has 12 kids in it, and every one of those kids invites every
Yeah,
one of the kids to every birthday party, like you're spending a lot of money and time and effort to make birthday parties. And so that was something that became very obvious to us that we needed to have like a family birthday party policy, which sounds super funny and intense, but at the same time, made a huge difference for us when we were able to kind of set some guidelines and boundaries with
right.
that. So more often than not, when I start with clients, I think that no matter where you are in your family, right, like whether you're getting started with a family or you have teenagers, having a clearly defined family mission statement and value system sets the foundation for decision making for all aspects of your life.
Right. And feeling like confident and solid in your decision. Because I
Yes.
heard like pressure from parents, like it can get crazy here. Like for birthdays, they always send like the children with like a party favor. And it used to be something like small, like, maybe a little toy and a snack. And then like for my friends, it's like getting crazier and crazier. They were at one birthday where all the kids got a goldfish in a bowl, and she's like, now we're giving out pets. Like she's
Right.
and
Like this
everybody.
is responsibility I wasn't prepared
Yeah,
for.
exactly.
Yeah.
So and then it's like everyone's tried and the kids were super excited, but it's like I don't know, sometimes the parents feel insecure because they're like, "Oh man, what am I going to do to top that?" So not feeling the need to like compete or, top that or anything
Yes.
like that.
Oh, you are hitting the nail on the head. So, at the very end of my book, I say, in a world that asks you to be more and do more as a parent, I'm here to tell you that you can do less. So, like the title of my book is Let's Choose Less. Like, we can choose to do less and we're still good parents, right? Like, we can have less toys, we can buy our kids less things. We don't need to do all of the activities. And that doesn't mean that we don't love our children. If anything,
Right.
that means that we're just teaching our children different values. But as parents, we feel so much guilt in our generation and obligation. And so hopefully, my goal is to connect with other moms and parents to be able to say, you're a great mom. You're a great mom. You don't have to do anything else other than love your kid. Like, love your child, and we're going to be just fine, right?
Right.
And
Amen.
so there's not as I know there's just not as much of that in the world right now.
Yeah, we need more of that because it is a lot of pressure, and you're like everybody's trying to figure out if they're doing the right thing, and then I read that like we're spending more time than ever before with our children, and so we're
Yeah.
in the but still we feel this pressure. But I got to put them in the best this and Montessori and this and not too much this and
Yes, I
all.
was reading about this last night. Yes, I
Yeah,
started this book. It's called Family Unfriendly. I haven't finished it yet. So if you go and read it after you hear this podcast and you don't like it, don't come back to me because I haven't finished it yet. So I don't know how it ends. But in the beginning of it, it was talking about how women are working more, right? Right now, yet somehow parents as a whole are spending more time with their children before we ever did. Like
right,
when we were kids, our parents did not spend as much time with us
right,
because they didn't love us as much or whatever. Like culture has just obligated us
yeah.
to do so much more as parents, and it's like being proven scientifically now.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy and we still feel the pressure like we're not doing enough. And we're literally in our children's faces like
All day long.
all day long.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
And speaking of being with our children all day long, I'm like my son is 2.5, but he's like I'm home with him all the time. I'm his primary caregiver. My husband works, and then the evening, he helps out, and then I have see a few clients or whatever I can do. But
Hmm.
I've been very, I think I told you this, that I'm like really interested in homeschooling and I love to speak to homeschooling moms. And could you tell me a little bit about that? Like what, first of all, where did the decision stem from?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. So, my oldest daughter went to kindergarten in the public school system, and I watched her change. She was just not herself anymore. And I definitely felt a calling towards homeschooling. And let me just say that homeschooling now is different than when our generation was growing up. Like
Right.
a lot of times people have this idea that they're going to be on the fringe and they're going to be different and it's going to be lonely. And if anything, I think that our social lives are more robust now as a homeschool family than they were before, because we have more time and freedom to have social interactions. And so at the end of my daughter's kindergarten year, we did a summer trial where I was like, you know what? We're just going to keep this school year rolling and we're going to do some, curriculum at home. I'm going to pick and choose a few things. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to see what happens. And at the end of the summer, my kids were halfway through a grade level. Like they just blew through a bunch of curriculum and I was just absolutely enjoying it. And to me, what was the biggest fear factor was the social ramifications, right? Like
Right.
standing in
That's what
the
people
street.
always say. They need to
Yes,
socialize.
yes, that is just so much. That's a like big pile of baloney because
Right.
anybody who asks that question of a homeschool family is not familiar with like a homeschooling model. And I think that you can take everything to an extreme, right? Like
Right.
moderation is a good thing. So I don't recommend being a homeschool family and never going anywhere. And I also don't recommend being a homeschool family and going everywhere all day, all the time.
Right.
Like a balance is good. But when people ask about socialization, I always defer to my kids because right now my kids are so well versed in being able to talk to people of all age groups and different diversity groups that it's fascinating to me because they don't see it that way, right? Like they get to go to the grocery store on a random weekday, or we do a ton of field trips and they go meet kids that are significantly younger than them or significantly older than them. And the socialization, I think, is more thorough because they have the freedom to see a wider range of kinds of people and age groups versus just being in a classroom
Right. With
with
that's
just
artificial.
right. And anybody who's listening to this and has their child in a traditional schooling method, like this is not me judging anybody
Right.
who has that, but I have extremely social children. And in some ways I felt like that was one of the reasons why my daughter had a hard time was because she just had so much she wanted to talk about and to experience and to do. And she wasn't able to do as much of it because she needed to sit down and pay attention and be quiet. And it does not take what people think would be like the full school day, right? Like we spend maybe 2 hours a day on schoolwork, and then the rest of it, my kids are reading and playing or going on adventures or painting or gosh, coming up with all kinds of like schemes. Like right now, we're in the middle of we're going to have a bake sale for 3 months every Saturday. I'm like, are we? So there's just like so much creativity that happens. But yes, so it was a twofold process for us. One, we saw our daughter just not do very well in school and decided to try it and just kind of fell in love with it. And then the other thing was just I felt like they were young enough that I wasn't going to mess them up really badly if we tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah, you can
Um,
always.
yes, you can always change your decision, and I
Right.
have no idea if we're going to be like, lifetime homeschoolers. But for right now, it works really well for our family, and we're having a fun time. So we're rolling with it.
Yeah, I love it. Like, so my first impression of homeschoolers was like when I was younger, we had two kids in our neighborhood that were homeschooled. Well, I shouldn't even say homeschool. They were educationally neglected. So that's where I always thought like, oh man, like homeschooling, they're like so behind and like, so I had a bad impression of homeschooling until I got to
Mhm.
college. And then there was like this 16-year-old in in one of my classes, and she's one
Mhm.
of my good friends till this day. But like in Israel, it's common. We like go. We have military and everything, so we go to school. Like we go to college later. So I was 24, and it's not normal to see a 16-year-old. Like everybody is usually in their mid 20s, older 20s,
Mhm.
And then and then I had a 16-year in my class, and I was like, and so she told me she was homeschooled, and so she like she graduated high school early because and she
Mhm.
wasn't weird, and she wasn't like you said fringe. She was like just, and I was so like, she reminded me of what I imagine your kids to be. She was 16, but she was confident. She didn't care that she was like around like 20-year-olds. She was just so, I was just like so amazed. And I kind of like took her under my wing like I was her big sister. Cool. Like now she's married and she has a kid of her own. But it was just cool. She was the first homeschooler, like normal homeschooler that I met. And she was just, and her siblings are also homeschooled and they're amazing. But that's when I was like, wow, that's how you do it right. And she had such a good head on her shoulders because we had just some general class together. And she said, yeah, I'm like majoring in astronomy, but I know I'm like, I'm probably not going to work in that. Like, but after the military, then I'll like get a like a degree in something that I'll work in. She's just the one that likes the academic. But one of her siblings is like she makes jewelry, and her brother is like an engineer. But they're awesome. But when I met her, that's what sparked, like, I'm like, wow, I think I want to do my kids to be homeschooled.
I
Yeah.
think it's very interesting because homeschooling is the top growing academic choice in America right now.
I don't remember the name of the documentary, but it was on Netflix. It just popped up one day and I saw
Mhm.
homeschooling. I didn't finish it, but it was so intriguing. And they were talking about since like COVID, increase in homeschooling, how
Mhm.
it's not even, like you said, fringe anymore. It's like really common. And do you live in a neighborhood or community with other homeschoolers?
There are not any homeschoolers that I know of in our immediate neighborhood, but our church is right down the road from us, and we have a whole homeschool community at our church. And we actually started basically a co-op with all of our friends that go to the same church that also are homeschoolers. So it's really nice because we all share the
Yeah.
same values and we run into each other at church. And there's a massive homeschooling community at our church, but where I am, homeschooling is a very prevalent schooling option, and there's just a lot for homeschoolers. And I think that's something that people worry about as well is that, like, oh, if I homeschool my kids, it's going to be so hard to meet people, or it's going to be so hard to find a community. And we have not had that experience. There's a lot of people that are experiencing homeschooling right now or choosing it. And it's been really fun and fruitful for us, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it makes it fun where you have other parents, like I don't know if you need to consult with, or just like their children
Yes. Oh,
share the
for
same
sure.
experience as your children, so they have that connection.
Yeah, we pick a lot of the same curriculums or thematic units, and then it helps because what we're doing in our co-op, we can kind of be like, oh yeah, well, we were doing Me on the Map, or we were doing this, or we were doing that, and kind of pull it all together. And then the kids will be like, hey, me too. And then they're like, I liked this part, or did you like that part? And
Oh,
so
cool.
that's really helpful too, for sure.
Yeah, and people forget that there are also like extracurricular activities, like people in traditional school, they can go to like, I don't know, football or basketball, tennis, arts and
Mhm.
crafts, so like they can meet people that way as well. So I don't think it's
Yeah,
that hard for
exactly.
children to meet other children.
Yes.
And do you also like you work from home as well?
I do. I do this kind of stuff from home. It basically just fits into the cracks of motherhood for me, right? Like
Yeah.
in the introduction to my book, I talk about how I was writing my introduction, hiding in my closet while my husband was outside playing with the kids, and I had like an hour before I knew I needed to get dinner started and the laundry's going to be done and this, and this. And so I've been very fortunate that my job just kind of melds into fill in some of the quote actual free time that moms have, which is actual free time. You just kind of
Right.
figure out how to make it work. But yes, so figuring it all out, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, and I want to put a little shift to focus on your book, where the holiday season is coming up now, and a lot of people like giving books as gifts. I think books are great gifts, and you also mentioned it that it's one of your pillars. So,
Yes.
for people who might be interested in buying your book as a gift for someone, tell us who is your book written for?
It's written for anyone who is becoming a mom. So it's written for any young family that is entering into parenthood or up to about the age 5. There's a lot in there for people who have kids that are older than that, but I just focused on those age groups. My goal, hopefully, is to write another book with older groups later, but I felt like I couldn't. tell somebody how to parent a teenager before I've experienced doing that myself. And I'm very familiar with babies and toddlers. And
Right.
so that was my bread and butter, and I can definitely write about that. But yes, books are evergreen gifts to us. Our kids get a book every Christmas or birthday from us. I love to write in them. And then they can go back and be, look, Mom, I got this one for my second birthday, and you said this, or look, Mimi and Poppy got us this one. And so I always ask people to write in the covers of them when they give our kids books as well. I think it's special to
Oh,
have this
yeah, that
good
is.
memory.
My grandma would do that for us, and I still have books, but she writes the year and how old I was. But yes, she was the only one who did that, so I know that your kids are gonna love that because they had that from you, both of you, and
Oh,
your grandparents.
precious. Yeah.
I hope people purchase the book. I know this will be useful. Like just hearing the things you're talking about now, I know that this will be insightful for any new parent. And this is like, I know so many pregnant women right now. So, yeah.
We'll tell them all that there's a sample registry in the book. So if they need to know what's essential for having a baby,
Yeah.
I got them covered.
Yeah, that's a good bonus right there.
Yes, it is for sure. I also do a gift list at the back where I make gift suggestions for every age from newborns all the way through 5-year-olds. And I split it up.
Oh,
Like, what should you buy a 4-year-old? Like, here are some fun ideas.
right. Sometimes I get so like I have to buy a birthday present for like, I don't know, a neighbor's child or something. I'm like, what do, 5-year-old girls like? Like, I don't remember. And plus,
Yes.
everyone's into different things. And then you
Yes.
ask the parent what they're into, and they're like, oh, don't. And you're like, please just give me some guidance.
Yes, please. Yes, for
I'm
sure.
quick to give it. I'm like, look, he likes dinosaurs, he likes insects, whatever. Like,
I love
so,
to give practical ideas too. Like, hey, she's grown out of her rain boots and she really needs new rain boots. That would be a great gift if you don't mind. Or a new
yeah,
winter coat. Or hey, you know what? Their water bottle is looking really, really rough right now. An upgrade to a really nice one would be an awesome gift.
right. Yeah, I love that too. That's what, for like we said, no gift policy, but I know like family members and one of my best friends, she's like, I'm going to bring the gift. So that's what I told her, my friend. Too. I was like, look, you could use some more like new summer clothes. He's outgrown the ones. So like, yeah, useful gifts like that, like, but
Mhm.
toys. So like some insect books, some dinosaur books, some new summer
Yeah.
clothes. So yeah, I'm all about yeah, practical, useful things. I always like to ask moms about wellness and self-care. Do you have something, some practice that you like to do or hobby that you feel like replenishes you or gives you back some vitality?
Yes, I currently am getting ready to run a half marathon in another couple of weeks. So running, yep. I also go to CrossFit at least once or twice a week, just as like some strength training as well. So I definitely, my husband and I are very active. We sit down every week and we plan out whose day it will be to work out. So we alternate
Oh,
mornings or
cool.
evenings depending on how our schedule goes. But we both prioritize activity to try and stay healthy from like a not getting sick standpoint, as well as just being able to run and play with our kids and feel good. Also exercise. I used to work in exercise. I actually have a degree in dance and was a
Oh,
personal trainer
wow.
for a really long time. So that's a really important thing for me, just to move my body and feel good. I definitely notice it when I don't. I'm a better mom when I can take care of myself first and then also take care of my kids. So I feel it when I'm not
I love
active.
it. And you hear that? A mom of four and a business owner. She makes time to move and move her body and so no excuses. Everybody can find some time to
It's, you know what, even just pushing the stroller for a walk. I mean, there were years where that was just the only thing. Oh, man, those double strollers are so heavy, right? Like that's a lot. You got to give yourself credit if you're doing that. And you have to look at too, like from a physical activity standpoint, putting kids in and out of a car or lifting groceries or carrying the baby bucket or picking babies up and down all day long or I mean, growing a human being. That's,
right.
the world's greatest physical challenge. At one point, I read that when you are pregnant, at certain points of your pregnancy is the equivalent of running a marathon every day
Yeah, I
for a
read
month
that
on end.
recently.
Yes. So I think If I was to suggest anything to other moms, I would say just remember that whatever season you're in is just a season, and there will always be time for things in other seasons that there might not be in this one, and to give yourself as much grace as you possibly can because
Mhm.
being a parent is hard. It's very hard, and we are very hard on ourselves.
Tell me about
So, right, being as kind and graceful as you can to yourself. Like, hey, you know what? I didn't exercise today, but I did keep a small human being alive, and I think that's a huge victory. So I'm gonna roll with that one. For yeah, just
Yeah,
don't get too caught up in the I should haves.
right, yeah, do what you can, but try to prioritize it because it can just do like it can do wonders for your mental health. Because I remember like my first 6 to 8 months postpartum, I just didn't have it in me. You know, like we know some people are
Mhm.
able to like work out with their babies. It was just overwhelming for me. I didn't have any help. And then I just said like I need to start moving my body. And I remember I started walking and then I started running. And what it did for my health, like I just started to my mood was better. So I feel like just to get outside and even if you decide you're going to do like a 10-minute walk, just try to notice the difference in your mood. And then if you can do more, 15 minutes, and you like it doesn't have to be a half marathon, but just try to
Mhm.
make time to get out and breathe some air. If you're not, some people live in like cold areas, they can't go out. Listen to your favorite playlist on the treadmill, but it's just what movement can do for your brain, like fight depression and all things like that. I think it's so important.
I agree. I also think a lot of moms try to separate their momming from their self-care, and sometimes you have to intertwine them, and it
Right.
is not a bad thing for your kids to see you exercise, and is not a bad thing for you to tell your kids like, "Hey, mom really needs to go for a walk, so we're going to have our snack in the stroller today," or "Mom is going to go do something really hard. Would you like to come and watch?" So like at my
Right.
gym, the kids get to hang out in the lobby and there's a clear glass door and my kids can watch my workout. And if you have a garage gym or if you just do it on your driveway or in your living room or wherever you are, it's okay for your kids to see you do it. I think a lot of times moms try and separate like their mom time from like chores or self-care and all those things. Do those when the baby is napping. And yes, it may be harder when your child is around, of course, but allowing them to see you take care of yourself is a really healthy thing as well.
Yeah, it's a great example. It's a great, mirroring. They'll know that that should be a priority maybe in their lives.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Well, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. And could you please tell us where can we connect with you? Where can we buy your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at purposeful_parenting. And I'm posting all kinds of funny reels and random things that happen throughout our day. Or you can find me on my website at yourpurposefulparenting.com. And either one would be fine. And once my book is for sale in the spring, I will have it listed on there.
Awesome. So I'll make sure everything is linked in the show notes. And thank
Thank
you so much. Bye, Jenna.
you. Bye.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a